What is up, gang, and welcome to another video. 1 second. That's better. And it's thanks to you guys. You've been investing in me, both through subscribers. We're at almost 2,000 subscribers in such a short space of time. I can't actually believe it. And through Patreon and through joining the Discord and stuff. So it was about time that I invested in myself a little bit as well. So I bought this digital camera so that you guys can see, just how bad my skin really is.
There's something wrong with me.
So from here on out, at least the quality of these videos will be better. I'll no longer be shooting on my iPhone, which is great. I'm not the best video editor, and this is a new camera, so I do apologize if in future videos maybe the colors change slightly, the lighting perhaps, just as I figure out just what works the best for this format. But enough of that. What are we looking at today? What's up, gang, and welcome to Inspired By, a series where we look at the musical trends past and present to understand the techniques used so that you guys can make better music. A happy new year to you. My name's Will and I make a plethora of music under the moniker Hush Child, and today we're looking at the music of Charles I. Yes, today is an exciting video all about sine compression and bass design. You're going to hear this in tracks by Charles I, Mr. Carmack, Jade Cicada, and people that make that kind of post-garage future dubstep sound as well. Hearing the term sine compression can often be super daunting because where do you start? You're a beat maker, you're getting into the realms of production and sound design, and how do you begin to understand sine compression? Well, essentially, it's just the practice of grabbing a bass line, compressing it, and bringing out the harmonics of that sound. It doesn't really matter which way you get there, as long as you do get to the result that you want to at the end. So today I have like 6 different sounds that I've used in this project, and hopefully you'll get something out of at least one of these things. The last being something that I do with a flanger, which is probably my favorite sound. Let's jump into it. That's it. We're back. New year. Same old me. So really what we're going to be focusing on is this section of colors here, just these 6 families. So to play it from the beginning again and just refresh your memory of what we're making, we have this. And that's made up of really 4 families of instruments. I've got the sub there to help us, and we'll come back to why that is. We've got our main bass arrangement, which sounds like this on its own. And of course, that's going to be the main portion of this video. And then just to top it off and make it sound like a more cohesive idea so you guys can hear how it might sound in your own projects, we've got this drum section, which of course I've made up by using the Soundsmith sample packs. And they sound like this. Finally, got this section here, which is just a little bit of a melody, just with the brushed bell patch that you can find inside Ableton, inside Operator. Jumping into this project, don't be put off with the fact that you see a lot of serum patches there. You can do this with Operator. If you're in Logic, you can do this with the ES1 or the ES2. You can grab a sample from Splice, just grab any sample of a sine wave. Super simple stuff. Any DAW should have a way of producing a sine tone, even if it's in Logic and you use the test oscillator. So let's dive right in to making these bass sounds. The first sound that I have in here is this orange region here. I'm just going to play that on its own. So let's have a look what's on this chain. So if we dive into this, I've got a few things going on. I've got a glue compressor, saturator, OTT, a notch filter, utility, and then finally the EQ8 there. Guys, get that copy and paste hotkey at the ready because it's going to be a lot of Command C, Command V. And that's a good thing as a producer because we don't want to create everything absolutely from scratch. We're just going to make minor tweaks to each of our sound to have them remain in keeping with one another and stack them in the same family. I'm going to make this first one from scratch so you can see the process. And then after that, I'll just explain what I've done because as I mentioned before, you are going to want to copy and paste a lot of these settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a new serum instrument. And what I did with this first instrument is just simply grab the BD sine. So analog BD sine here, just the sine wave. And I really didn't do anything else to it apart from just bring that attack up a little bit so I don't have that click sound when the sine wave first plays. So about 15 milliseconds is perfect. And you may or may not be able to hear that out of your speakers. So it's best to pop some headphones on now. But I'm on -1 and I'm just playing F. Now I'm going to walk you step by step exactly what I did for this example. So what I've done is frozen this in place and then flattened it. I actually prefer to work with audio, so this doesn't bother me in the slightest. You don't have to do this. I do it because it speeds up the processing power of my CPU, especially like this idea if you're going to do things time and time again. You don't want loads of instances of Serum with different automation presets set. You can keep it as MIDI. I actually think that I've got a couple of MIDI examples here. Yeah, so these three here, I didn't even change. I kept them as MIDI. This first one, I initially made for an idea of my own and I kept it as audio thinking that I would be doing a lot more with this project. First thing that you want to do is throw on the glue compressor. Bring that threshold pretty much all the way down. And that's going to be the thing that really drives this sound and squashes it. I'm going to turn soft clip on. You don't have to, but play around with that. And you might want to adjust the makeup as well. So I've brought my threshold down to -35 and my makeup up to 16 decibels or just over that. Next thing that you're going to want to do is add a saturator. And when we bring the saturator onto the track, you're not really going to hear any difference. Now listen, as we bring the drive up, you'll start to hear a bit of a change in this sine wave pattern. So I'm going to leave mine on about 35.4 dB, but mess around with your sound, see how it sounds. Also mess around with soft clip. This is how it sounds with soft clip on. So I'm going to leave soft clip on for this. And the first thing that we're going to do is automate this bass control. So just give it a click and then hit A. And it should say on the side here, saturate a bass. If it doesn't, just choose your saturator and then choose bass. And from here, we can automate some sort of rhythm. So I'm happy with that little rhythm there. The next thing that I'm going to do is add OTT. As I've mentioned before, OTT, this is something that you can grab for free from X4 Records. If you're using Ableton Suite, you should have multi-band dynamics. And if you search in the bar, you'll have OTT just under that. So I'll bring that in. And you can hear that it's a lot less bassy, a lot more buzzy now. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take the high frequency down. So bring that output down. I'm going to put mine on about maybe -6 dB. I think I'm actually going to bring that down another couple of dB. So now we're going to add a notch filter. Go audio effects, just type in notch. And if we go to our EQ8 filter, you can find notch 4 there. Drag that in and we only really need one, so we can get rid of 2, 3, and 4. And we're just going to use this and we're going to automate that sound to again give some movement to this bass. And I think really it's just going to go down to about the halfway mark, come up, come down again, and shoot all the way back up. I try not to overthink this process so much because I'm going to be doing a lot of this. So I just try and make bass sample after bass sample and then see what sticks. Coming to the end, we're going to add a utility, throw that on, and then whack that gain up. It's going to be different for your sound depending on the previous settings that you've made. But for me, I've got this gain on about 6.67 dB. And finally, we're going to add one more EQ8. And that's going to go right on the end. And here we're going to automate the lows and the highs. With the high pass filter, I'm really just rolling off the kind of first 60 hertz, that fundamental frequency, because that's what my sub bass group is going to be for restoring some of that bass. So all of these sounds sound a little bit more in keeping. With the low pass filter, I'm going to drag it down to here. I can see where it's starting from, and then I'm going to drag it down and up. Yeah. So we've got the automation on the saturator, on the notch filter, and on the EQ8. So often what I'm going to do when designing these bass sounds is I'm going to select that track, I'm going to press Command D to duplicate the track, and then I'm going to delete this along with the automation and start creating a new sound, because quite often I'm going to use the glue compressor, the saturator, OTT, and so on. So it's just creating new patches with new automation. The part of the tutorial you've just watched is probably the longest, as now I'm copy and pasting these sounds. I'm just explaining the choices that I made and how I changed these sounds, maybe add in an extra plugin or an extra piece of white noise, why I did that. So let's jump into this second sound. This is what we've got. And as you can see, I've just left it as a MIDI file there. I haven't bounced it like I have with this section. So the key difference here from the first sound is this one sounds more like an 808, right? So with this particular sound, again, I jumped into Serum, and my Serum presets here, again, with the analog BD Sine, you can see that's on 0 octaves. And again, I've got it at about 25 milliseconds. So again, I'm just taking off the click of that initial sound. So not dissimilar from the way that you would create an 808. And if you don't know how to do that, then this is going to help you out. So just create your bass sound. And the first thing that I've got going is actually a pitch bend. So if you listen, you can hear the pitch of the instrument is quickly bouncing down. And that's with the use of the LFO here. If I had it like this, you get more of an idea of what's going on. So there's a really steep curve with LFO1. The next thing that I do is I add distortion, and there's just a little bit of drive there. The mix is all the way up. And finally, I go to my matrix. I go to source and I choose LFO1. I go over to the right and I say that my destination is the master tune. And with that amount, I just set it to 12. And then you should have a sound that sounds like this. So we've just got a basic kind of subby 808 sound there. The next thing that I did as per was just to add a glue compressor. We had the saturator, and this is where a lot of those frequencies and harmonics are going to come from. Using OTT, we've taken out the highs the same as we did before. We've just copied and pasted that. Adding the notch filter and automating that there. So this is what my automation looks like. So our bass is just going from low to high. The notch filter set to frequency A again, and just driving down, up, and then from bottom to top. So it kind of inverts there. And then finally, we've got our EQ8 on the low pass, and we're automating frequency A. Don't worry too much about this resonance. I think that was just me messing about before. So that's all I've got going on. It says automation next to the mixer here, but I've just dropped the volume off very quickly there so we can get into our next sound. This is probably my favorite sound in all of the patches, and it sounds like this. And we hear this time and time again in CharlesTheFirst examples. So what have I done with this instrument? Well, of course, I've used Serum. The analog BD Sine is looking a little bit different. And the reason for this is I've chose this top right option here, which allows me to draw in a frequency. And what I've done is I've just chosen this option here. You can see here it says bin 1, 2, 3, 4. For this example, because I'm in F, I'm choosing bin 8. And I'm just turning that up. And once I do so, you see that there's a change to that waveform. So what I'm doing is I'm just bringing in a harmonic to this layer. I haven't brought it up that much, probably about 10%. And that's changed the look of the waveform a little bit. It looks a little bit more wiggly. You can see that LFO1 isn't as high in the pitch bend this time. I've brought it down to about the halfway mark with a similar slope. No effects this time, so no distortion, no overdrive. But as I said, LFO1 master tune, and we've set that master tune amount to about 12. Presets once again, glue compressor, settings are the same. Saturator, soft clip off this time, and the bass looking at minus 21.7. OTT, our output for the higher frequencies all the way down, rolled it completely off. Notch filter, looking a little bit different, no automation on this one, and then all the automation on EQ8. This time round, just to add in an amp and automating that presence a little bit. So without that amp, it sounds like this. So kind of soft. With that amp and increasing that presence, we have this. So there's a lot more high-end presence there this time around. Moving quickly on to this serum patch here. Actually cheated a little bit, guys, so I have to apologize. So with this particular sound, I'm using Soundsmith's baseline house preset, and I would strongly recommend having a look at the future house packs from Soundsmith's. But if you don't have the money, I completely understand. We're in a global pandemic. If you want to create something like that, then you're going to want to create, again, like what we've seen before, is perhaps a BD Sine, add some harmonic layer into that. Here, this is what the shape looks like. Mess around with the wavetable position. And again, we've got basic shapes. We've just got a sine wave on there. And look at this. Here's a little clue to how to make this sound. You want to automate that filter mixed with some reverb so that as that filter moves through the sound and more high frequencies are introduced, you're bringing out the reverb. So it sounds like a real big bassy room sound. Absolutely lovely sound there. Moving on, I've got two sounds in yellow here. So this is our first sound here. So super crushed sound there, and underneath this sound here. So not dissimilar from the sound that we heard before up here. We've just taken out some of that low end, right? With this sound here, the only thing that we're really adding that's different to the other presets that we've seen is this Haas plugin. And I have used this from Kilohertz. If you don't want to use a plugin that you might have to purchase, you just want to do it with stock sounds, then look into creating the Haas effect from sample delay. And you just need a little bit to make it sound a little bit wider than it is. Without it, it sounds a little bit too central for my liking. It is subtle, but that just makes it sound a lot more wider to me. Finally, this is my favorite sound that I created, and this is what it sounds like alone. And it's got this real like detuned, almost tape stop effect to what's going on here. And you can see that I've frozen and flattened that in place. But trust me when I tell you that it's not too dissimilar from this harmonic bass that we made here. And all that I've done is created a harmonic bass as we saw in this serum patch here. I've gone into effects and I've added a flanger. All that I did was increase the rate. And I added again that Haas effect, or if you want to do it for free, add a bit of sample delay with the timing very, very short. And the final thing that we've done differently is I've gone to clip and I've just automated the transposition here to create that tape stop effect. So without the tape stop effect, this is what it sounds like. By adding the tape stop effect in the middle and at the ends here, it sounds like it's struggling to find its pitch. And I really like that effect, especially for something at the end of the bar. You can almost use this instead of using some kind of drum fill or something that's a little bit more obvious. Finally, to wrap everything together, what I've done is I've got all of these sounds and put them in one final group. And with this group, it's entirely up to you. With most of these instruments, I've already rounded off some of the bass, and that's unique to each of the elements that I've designed. If you want to be a bit lazy, you can of course add a high pass filter and take off, you know, sort of the first 60 or so hertz to get rid of some of the bass regions. And then I've got this hip hop sub bass there. And with this hip hop sub bass, if you can hear that, I've added again a saturator with a little bit of drive, a compressor just for the side chains, and it's just rolled off completely, as I've said, to about the 100 hertz region. So we're just getting, you know, what is in the name, just the sub region, and that's completing my bass sound. Together they sound like this. There we go, and that completes the tutorial, guys. This is what everything sounds like together. I hope that was helpful, guys. As always, you can head over to my Patreon, download this project that will have these bass sounds frozen and flattened in place for you guys to use as your own samples. You can have a look at the project and see how each of the individual elements sound on their own, as well as chop it up and use it in your own tracks that you produce. If you want to see anything else that I mentioned in the video or previous videos, that information is in the description below. So there we have it, guys, another episode that's come to the end. As always, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Soundsmiths. Do check out their sounds. You can find them at soundsmiths.co.uk or on Splice if you type in Soundsmiths. They have an amazing collection of sounds, and I've got a sneak peek at some of the artist packs that are coming your way as well. If you've enjoyed this video or learnt something new, please do give it a like. Leave a comment for anything that you would like to see in future videos. And if you're not already subscribed, leave me a subscribe, hit that bell icon so that you get notified when the next video is out. If you want to share any of your work or get creative feedback from the community, you can join the Discord. And if you want to support the channel, you can join my Patreon at patreon.com/Will Hatton. Any of the information that I've mentioned in this video or previous is, as always, found in the description below. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.